I always thought family meant having each other's backs. Funny how quickly that illusion shatters when you check your bank balance and find $200,000 missing. My name is Talia, and I've spent the last 3 years meticulously planning my future. While other 21-year-olds were living their best lives on Instagram, I was working double shifts at the campus coffee shop, tracking every penny and attending monthly family investment meetings where we'd review the education fund my parents and Aunt Laurel set up for me. "Look at these numbers," I'd say during those meetings, spreading spreadsheets across our kitchen table. "If we maintain this growth rate, I'll have enough for grad school by next fall." Mum would smile that proud smile of hers, and Dad would nod, calling me his little financial wizard. My older brother Rory would roll his eyes and leave the room, probably to work on his latest masterpiece in the garage. I believed in that future. Until today. I was checking the joint account, something I do religiously every Monday, when I noticed the first transfer. 50,000 gone. Then another and another. The timestamps went back 3 weeks. My hands shook as I downloaded the full transaction history. Each withdrawal had a neat little note. Education fund transfer, authorised by S. Burke. My mother's name, my money, gone. The piece that made everything click into place came 10 minutes later when my phone buzzed with Rory's latest Instagram post. There he was, lounging on a Mediterranean beach, designer sunglasses perched on his nose, raising a cocktail to the camera. Living my best life. 6 weeks of pure artistic inspiration ahead. Blessed, Fra sponsored by family, our artistic journey. The room started spinning. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the retreat's website he'd tagged. The price made me sick. $195,000 for their exclusive artistic immersion experience. My entire future traded for my brother's 6-week vacation. "Hey, sweetie," Mum called, walking into my room without knocking. "What are you doing home so early? I thought you had work." I turned my laptop screen toward her, showing the bank statements. "Care to explain this?" Her face did something interesting, a flash of guilt, quickly replaced by that serene, knowing expression she always wore when she thought she was being the wise mother. "Oh, that," she said, sitting on my bed. "I was going to tell you about that over dinner. Your brother needed—" "My money," I cut in. "He needed my money." "Talia, don't be dramatic. It's family money, and Rory has a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This retreat could launch his career." I laughed. Actually laughed. "The money Aunt Laurel contributed, the money I've been saving from every paycheck, that's family money? You're so capable, sweetie. You'll figure something out. You always do." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Rory needs this chance. He's sensitive, you know that. He needs the right environment to flourish." My phone buzzed again. Another Instagram notification. Rory, this time posting a sunset video from what looked like a luxury villa. "Home for the next 6 weeks. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for believing in my vision. So I'm blessed." I felt oddly calm as I opened my messages and typed a text to Aunt Laurel. "Remember that investment contract we signed last year? You might want to see this before the family trip next month." Mom was still talking, something about family solidarity and supporting each other's dreams. I wasn't listening. Instead, I was attaching screenshots of the bank transfers to my message to Laurel. "Talia, are you hearing me?" I looked up at my mother, seeing her, really seeing her, for the first time. The woman who'd always told me I was the strong one, the capable one, the one who didn't need help because I was so good at handling things on my own. All code for the one we can take from because she'll survive it. "I hear you perfectly," I said, hitting send on the message to Laurel. "In fact, I think I finally understand everything." Mum's phone buzzed in her pocket, probably Laurel already responding. Her face changed as she checked it, that serene mask cracking just a little. "What did you do?" she whispered. I smiled, the same way she always smiled at me during those investment meetings. "What you taught me to do, Mum. I'm looking out for family." Her face went pale as another message came through, then another and another. I turned back to my laptop, opening a new spreadsheet. Time to start calculating exactly how much my family owed me, in dollars and in truth. Because if there's one thing I've learned from all those careful years of planning, it's that everything, eventually, needs to be balanced. Dad came home at 6, right on schedule. I heard Mum's hushed, urgent whispers in the hallway as she intercepted him. By 6:30 we were all seated around the dinner table, the air thick with tension. "Your mother tells me you're upset about the education fund," Dad said, carefully cutting his chicken into precise squares. "Upset?" I set down my fork. "Is that what we're calling theft these days?" Mum's knife scraped against her plate. "That's enough, Talia. We're your parents. We made a decision that was best for the family." "Best for Rory, you mean?" I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd saved. "Let's talk about these transfers. 3 of them, exactly 1 week apart. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" "We knew you'd notice," Dad said quietly. "We just hoped you'd understand." "Understand what? That my brother's Instagram vacation matters more than my future?" Mum set down her utensils with that familiar click that always preceded one of her lectures. "Your brother is at a crucial point in his development. This retreat could make his career. You're being selfish if you can't see that." I didn't even flinch. "I assumed you'd say that." The words hung in the air between us. Mum's eyes narrowed slightly. She wasn't used to this version of me, the one who didn't back down. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. "It means I've heard this song before. Rory needs support. Rory needs understanding. Rory needs money. Meanwhile, I need to just figure it out, right?" Dad cleared his throat. "Talia, you've always been so capable." "Stop." My voice was ice. "Just stop. You know what's interesting? I have something to show you both." I pulled out the envelope I'd retrieved from my lockbox that afternoon. The paper inside was crisp, official-looking, with 3 signatures at the bottom. "Remember when Aunt Laurel and Uncle Cody contributed to the education fund last year? They insisted on this document, a legal agreement specifying their investment was exclusively for my education." Mum's face went white. Dad stopped cutting his chicken. "You're bluffing," Mum whispered. I slid the document across the table. "Read paragraph 3, the one that explicitly excludes Rory from accessing these funds, the one you both signed." Dad picked up the paper with trembling hands. "Sabrina, did you know about this clause?" Mum wouldn't meet his eyes. "It wasn't relevant. We're family. These things are flexible." "They're really not," I cut in, pulling out my phone again. "Which is why I just forwarded all the withdrawal records and Rory's social media posts to Aunt Laurel. She's particularly interested in how her investment was used to fund a retreat that's currently under investigation for fraud." The colour drained from Mum's face. "Under investigation? That's ridiculous. Matthew assured me." "Matthew?" I raised an eyebrow. "The retreat coordinator. You're on a first-name basis with him." Mum's mouth snapped shut. Dad looked between us, confusion etched on his face. "Who's Matthew?" "Nobody," Mum said quickly. Too quickly. "Talia, you're making this into something it's not. We're your parents. We made a judgment call." "You made a mistake," I corrected her, "and now you're going to face the consequences." My phone buzzed. A message from Laurel. "Just talk to Cody. He's reviewing the contract now. Stay strong, sweetheart." I showed them the message. Mum's hands began to shake. "You would do this to your own family," she whispered. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing." Dad stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. "We can fix this. We'll find a way to replace the money." "It's not about the money anymore," I said, standing too. "It's about the lies, the favouritism, the fact that you both looked me in the eye for weeks after stealing my future." "We didn't steal," Mum began. "Save it." I gathered my papers. "Aunt Laurel's lawyer will be in touch, and Mom, maybe delete those emails between you and Matthew. You know, the ones where you arranged this whole thing months ago." Her sharp intake of breath told me I'd hit a nerve. Dad's confused look deepened into something darker. "Sabrina, what emails?" I left them there, Mum stammering explanations. Dad asking increasingly pointed questions. In my room, I opened my laptop and began forwarding everything to Laurel. Every bank statement, every Instagram post, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. My phone buzzed again, a message from my cousin Annalise. Mum told me what happened. I always knew Aunt Sabrina played favourites, but this is next level. Need anything? I typed back, just the truth to come out, all of it. Because that's the thing about truth. Once it starts spilling, it tends to flood. The Mediterranean artist's retreat looked perfect on Instagram. Crystal waters, pristine beaches, luxury villas. But something about it nagged at me. 3 hours of deep diving into business registries later, I knew why. Look at this, I said to Annalise, who'd come over to help me research. The retreat has operated under 4 different names in 3 years, and there are dozens of legal notices filed against them. Annalise leaned closer to my laptop screen. Creative Horizons Institute, Visionary Arts Collective, Global Artist Network. They keep changing names every time they get hit with complaints. And guess what else? I clicked through to another tab. They're not even a real non-profit. Their tax status was revoked last year. My phone chimed with an email notification, the retreat's administrator responding to my inquiry about Rory's expenses. Dear Ms. Burke, thank you for your query regarding the charges to the Burke Family Education Fund. Our records show all arrangements were made through your designated agent. Please clarify if you're the artist or their representative. I sat back, the pieces clicking into place. Someone posed as me. They used my name to access the education fund. Holy shit, Annalise breathed. Your mum? Her has to be. She's the only one besides me with account access. I forwarded the email to Uncle Cody. And look at this. They're charging everything as educational expenses. That's how they justified using my fund. Annalise pulled out her phone. I'm going to dig into this Matthew guy, the retreat coordinator. My friend works at a law firm that handles art fraud cases. Let me see what she knows. While she made calls, I kept searching. Every new detail made me feel sicker. The retreat's success stories were all suspiciously similar. Young artists whisked away to exclusive locations, promised connections with famous galleries, then hit with hidden fees and binding contracts. Talia? Annalise's voice was tight. You need to hear this. She put her phone on speaker. A woman's voice came through. The Mediterranean Artists Retreat. Yeah, we know them. They're under federal investigation for grant fraud and financial misreporting. They target wealthy families, promise to launch their kids' art careers, then drain them dry. The FBI's been building a case for months. My hands started shaking. My brother's there right now. Get him out, the woman said firmly. And anyone associated with that retreat? Their reputation is about to take a massive hit when this goes public. After hanging up, Annalise gripped my hand. I always knew Aunt Sabrina favoured Rory, but this is insane. It gets worse, I said, opening my email. Look what just came in. An anonymous email containing screenshots, dozens of them, messages between my mother and Matthew dating back months. Can't wait to meet your talented son in person, one read. Our private villa discussions have been so enlightening. You've helped me see my true artistic potential, Matthew had written. Rory will benefit from our special connection. Annalise gagged. Is your mum having an affair with this guy? I don't know. I felt numb. But she's been planning this for months. The retreat, the money, all of it. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Laurel calling. Talia, Cody's looking at everything now. This is bigger than we thought. That contract they violated, it's ironclad. We can force them to return every penny. There's more, I said, putting her on speaker. I explained everything we'd found. The fraud investigation, the fake non-profit status, the emails. Silence on the line. Then, I'm calling an emergency family meeting before the reunion. This needs to be handled now. After hanging up, I stared at my screen, at the evidence of my mother's careful manipulation. All those years of calling me the responsible one, the capable one. It was never a compliment. It was permission to take from me, to give everything to Rory. "What are you going to do?" Annalise asked softly. My laptop pinged with a new message from the retreat administrator. Clarification needed. Who negotiated retreat terms, the artist or his agent? I smiled grimly. "I'm going to tell the truth. All of it. Let's see how Mum explains using my identity to commit fraud." Annalise squeezed my shoulder. "They're going to try to guilt you, say you're destroying the family." "The family?" I laughed bitterly. "They destroyed that the moment they decided I was worth sacrificing." I began composing my reply to the administrator, copying Uncle Cody on every word. It was time to show my family exactly what their capable daughter could do. Because sometimes the quiet ones, we're quiet because we're watching, learning, and waiting for the perfect moment to speak up. The text from Aunt Laurel came at 8 a.m. "Emergency family meeting, my house, 2 p.m. Cody wants to discuss financial improprieties." Mum burst into my room 20 minutes later, still in her robe. "What did you tell them?" "The truth." I didn't look up from my laptop. "Isn't that what you always taught me? Honesty is the best policy." "Talia, please." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand what you're doing. This could ruin everything." "Everything?" Now I looked at her. "You mean like my future?" "Your brother—" Stop." I pulled out my phone and hit record. "Say it again. Tell me why you had to take my money." She didn't notice the recording light. "I had to move the money. Rory wouldn't survive without it. He needs this chance, this connection with Matthew." "The same Matthew you've been emailing for months?" Her face went pale. "What?" I played one of the voice messages I'd found in my morning research. Matthew's smooth voice filled the room. "Sabrina, darling, everything's arranged. The private villa sessions will give us plenty of time to discuss Rory's artistic development." "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Does Dad know about your artistic discussions with Matthew?" She slapped me. The sound echoed in my small room, but I didn't flinch, just kept recording. "You ungrateful little—" She caught herself. "I've given everything for this family, everything. And you're trying to destroy us because you're jealous of your brother's talent." "Talent?" I laughed. "Is that what we're calling it now?" My phone buzzed. Annalise sending new information. The retreat's financial records showed multiple complaints of sexual harassment against Matthew, all quietly settled. "Mum," I said quietly, "what exactly did you promise Matthew?" Something flickered in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? "That's none of your business." "It became my business when you used my money, my identity, to fund whatever game you're playing." She grabbed my arm. "Delete those recordings. Delete everything. If you destroy this family, don't expect to be part of it." I pulled away. "Already got that message, around the same time you stole my future." At 2 p.m. sharp, we gathered in Aunt Laurel's living room. Mum sat rigid beside Dad, who looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Uncle Cody spread documents across the coffee table. "Let's discuss the legal implications," he began. "The education fund contract was explicit. Any misuse of funds constitutes fraud." "It wasn't misuse," Mum interrupted. "It was a family decision." "A decision you made by forging Talia's signature," Laurel cut in. "We have the paperwork, Sabrina. You posed as her to authorise the transfers." Dad's head snapped up. "You did what?" "It wasn't like that," Mum protested. "I had authorisation." "No, you didn't." I pulled out my phone. "But you did have quite a few conversations with Matthew about it. Should we play them for everyone?" The colour drained from her face. "You're bluffing." I hit play. Matthew's voice filled the room again, this time discussing private arrangements and special consideration for Rory's admission. Dad stood up so fast his chair toppled. "Sabrina, what the hell is this?" "It's not. I was just—" She looked around wildly. "Talia is twisting everything." "The only thing twisted," Aunt Laurel said coldly, "is how you used your daughter's money to buy your son's way into a fraudulent retreat run by your lover." The room went dead silent. "Lover?" Dad's voice was barely a whisper. My phone buzzed again. Another anonymous email, this time with photos. Matthew and Mum at a hotel 3 months ago. Planning meeting, the caption said. I forwarded it to everyone in the room. I can explain, Mum started. Save it for the lawyers, Uncle Cody cut in. Because right now you're looking at fraud charges, identity theft, and misappropriation of funds, not to mention your connection to a retreat under federal investigation. Mum's face crumpled. I did it for Rory. He needs to grow up, I said quietly. And so do you. The doorbell rang. Aunt Laurel checked her phone and smiled grimly. That'll be our family lawyer. Shall we discuss restitution? Mum started to cry. Dad wouldn't look at her. And I sat there, recording everything, thinking about how sometimes the worst betrayals come wrapped in the words, I did it for family. Your mother and Matthew have known each other for years, Annalise said, spreading printouts across my bed. Look at these old Facebook posts. He was Rory's art mentor back in high school. I stared at the photos. Matthew, younger, but wearing the same sleazy smile, standing next to teenage Rory. Mum in the background, beaming. She planned this, I muttered. All of it. The retreat wasn't random. Neither was the timing. Annalise pointed to a document. The retreat's previous location, shut down by authorities last year, they needed fresh money to set up the Mediterranean spot. My phone lit up with a text from Dad, coming to talk, alone. He arrived looking haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. Probably hadn't. I've been going through your mother's emails, he said, sitting heavily on my desk chair. She's been funneling money to Matthew's projects for years. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. Did you check her personal account? I asked. He nodded slowly. Joint account's been drained too. She's been moving money around for months, setting up Rory's artistic career. He made air quotes, his voice bitter. Dad, I said carefully, have you looked into Matthew's background? Cody did. He rubbed his face. Multiple harassment claims, financial fraud investigations, and your mother. He choked up. She knew everything. Annalise's phone buzzed. She read the message and went pale. Talia, you need to see this. She handed me her phone. A news alert. Mediterranean artist retreat under investigation for human trafficking links. Oh God, I whispered, Rory. Dad read over my shoulder, his hands shaking. I need to call him. Get him out. Wait, Annalise interrupted. Look at the date. This investigation started 6 months ago, around the same time Aunt Sabrina started planning Rory's trip. I felt sick. She wasn't just funding the retreat. She was helping them relocate, using my money to... To what? Dad demanded. I pulled up the contract I'd found earlier. To buy protection. Look at this clause. By sending Rory there with family funding, she made us all legally liable for anything that happens at that retreat. The doorbell rang. Mum stood there, mascara streaked down her face. Don't do this, she pleaded. I can explain everything. Explain what? Dad's voice was ice. How you used our daughter's money to fund your boyfriend's criminal enterprise? It's not like that. She pushed past him into my room. I was protecting Rory. Matthew promised he'd keep him safe, give him opportunities. Like the opportunities he gave those other young artists? Annalise held up her phone with the trafficking article. Mum's face went ashen. That's not... I didn't... Didn't what? I stood up. Didn't know or didn't care as long as your precious Rory got his chance? You don't understand, she whispered. Matthew said... I understand perfectly. I pulled out a folder. I understand that you signed these contracts in my name. I understand that you used my identity to transfer money to a criminal organisation. And I understand that you did it all while telling me how proud you were of my financial responsibility. Dad's phone rang. Uncle Cody. The lawyers have everything, he said after hanging up. They're freezing all remaining assets under Talia's name. And Sabrina, he turned to Mom, they want to talk to you about wire fraud. You can't do this, Mum said, but her voice was weak. We're family. Family? I laughed. You want to talk about family? Let's talk about how you set up your own son with human traffickers. Let's talk about how you used your daughter's future to fund it. Let's talk about how you made us all complicit in your crimes. I was trying to help him, she screamed. Everything I did was for Rory. No, Dad said quietly. Everything you did was for yourself and Matthew. Her face crumpled. If you do this, if you destroy everything, save your threats, I cut in. Uncle Cody's already filing the paperwork. The police will want to talk to you about identity theft, the FBI about the fraud. And Dad? I looked at him. I think he wants to talk about divorce lawyers. Mum stumbled backward like I'd slapped her. Dad didn't contradict me. You'll regret this, she whispered. All of you. She fled the room. We heard her car start moments later. I need to call Rory, Dad said, pulling out his phone. Get him out of there before... He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. I looked at the scattered evidence of my mother's betrayal across my bed. Years of manipulation, lies and theft, all wrapped up in the excuse of maternal love. You okay? Annalise asked softly. No, I answered honestly, but I will be, once the truth is all out. Because that's the thing about truth. It hurts, but lies destroy. And my family had been destroyed by lies long enough. The annual family gathering felt more like a war council. Relatives trickled into Aunt Laurel's house, the usual cheerful greetings replaced by tense whispers and sidelong glances. Did you hear about Sabrina? Is it true about the money? What's this about the FBI? I sat in the corner, watching it all unfold. Mum hadn't been seen in 3 days, not since she'd fled my room. Dad had finally reached Rory, who was too busy with his art to come home early. Everyone, please gather in the living room, Aunt Laurel announced. We need to discuss some important matters. Uncle Cody stood at the front, legal papers in hand. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that what we're about to discuss has serious legal implications. Where's Sabrina? Grandma asked. Shouldn't she be here? She's been invited, Dad said quietly. Whether she shows up is her choice. The doorbell rang. Mum walked in, head high, wearing her best dress-like armour. She sat alone, no one moving to join her. Let's start with the facts, Uncle Cody said. The family education fund established for Talia was illegally accessed and drained. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Furthermore, he continued, these funds were used to finance a fraudulent art retreat currently under federal investigation. It wasn't fraudulent, Mum interrupted. Matthew runs a legitimate... Matthew Collins, Aunt Laurel cut in, is currently being investigated for human trafficking, fraud and sexual exploitation. The room erupted. Grandma started crying. Dad stared at the floor. That's not true, Mum insisted. He's helping young artists. Like you helped yourself to my money? I stood up. Should we show everyone the emails, Mum? The hotel receipts, the fake contracts you signed in my name? I did what I had to do. She jumped to her feet. Rory needed parents, Dad said, not enablers. The front door burst open. Rory swept in, designer sunglasses perched on his head, trailing expensive luggage. Sorry I'm late, family, but guess what? He beamed. I've been offered a European showcase. The retreat director's father owns this amazing gallery and... Sit down, Rory, Uncle Cody commanded. Did you sign any contracts while you were there? Rory's smile faltered. Oh, Mom handled all that boring stuff. I just focused on my art. Of course you did, I muttered. What's that supposed to mean? Rory demanded. It means, Aunt Laurel said, that your mother committed fraud to fund your little vacation, money that legally belonged to your sister. Rory turned to Mom. You said it was family money. It was, Mom protested. Everything I did was for this family. No, I stood up. Everything you did was to keep your perfect son happy while stealing your daughter's future. And now? I pulled out my phone, showing the latest news article about the retreat. Now you've tied us all to a criminal enterprise. Rory grabbed the phone, his face going pale as he read. This can't be right. Matthew said a lot of things, Dad cut in. To you, to your mother, to all the other young artists he exploited. You destroyed everything, Rory suddenly screamed at me. I had a chance to be something. You had a chance to grow up, I shot back. Instead, you let Mum keep babying you while she stole from me. Enough! Uncle Cody raised his voice. Here's what's happening. We're initiating legal proceedings to recover the misappropriated funds. Anyone who signed contracts with the retreat needs to come forward now. Mum stood up, smoothing her dress. You're all overreacting. I can fix this. I'll talk to Matthew. You'll do no such thing, Aunt Laurel said coldly. You'll be talking to my lawyer instead. The room fell silent. Years of family dynamics were crumbling, and in their place, hard truths emerged. You raised him like a prince, I said to Mum, and me like a pawn. And now? I smiled grimly. Now the board is flipped. Rory collapsed onto the couch, his carefully curated artistic persona cracking. Mum stood alone, her world of manipulation finally exposed. Aunt Laurel's phone buzzed. She read the message and looked up, her face grim. That was my lawyer, she announced. Sabrina, you'll be getting a call very soon. I suggest you get your own legal representation. Because sometimes justice doesn't come with a bang, but with the quiet rustle of legal papers and the shattering of carefully constructed lies. The contract's a void, Uncle Cody announced, spreading papers across Aunt Laurel's dining room table. Signed under false pretenses using stolen identity. Rory, legally speaking, you never should have been there. Rory paced the room like a caged animal. But my showcase, the connections I made, were with criminals, I finished, or did you miss that part? You don't understand art, he exploded. The retreat was transformative. Matthew showed me. Matthew showed a lot of people, a lot of things, Aunt Laurel cut in, her voice sharp, including your mother, apparently. Mum sat silent in the corner, her designer dress wrinkled, her perfect makeup smeared. She hadn't spoken since the lawyers called. I want to know exactly what contracts were signed, Dad said. His voice was tired, defeated. All of them. Uncle Cody pulled out another stack of papers. There's the retreat admission, signed by Sabrina using Talia's name. 3 financial agreements, same false signature. And... He paused, looking uncomfortable. A talent management contract, giving Matthew full rights to Rory's artistic output for the next 5 years. What? Rory stopped pacing. Mum said that was just a formality. A formality that gives him control of everything you create, I said, plus 20% of any earnings. But my European showcase... As if on cue, Rory's phone buzzed. He grabbed it, then went pale. The gallery owner, he whispered. He's cancelling, says he can't risk association with ongoing investigations. Mum finally stirred. I can fix this. Let me call Matthew. Matthew's been arrested, Aunt Laurel said flatly, along with 3 other retreat administrators. Something about young artists being forced into compromising situations for opportunities. The room went dead silent. Rory, Dad said carefully, did anything happen at the retreat? Rory collapsed into a chair, his artistic facade crumbling. He said that's how the industry works, that you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. Mum made a choking sound. But he promised me you'd be protected. That's why I paid extra. Paid extra? Dad's voice was dangerous. With whose money, Sabrina? It doesn't matter now, Uncle Cody interrupted. What matters is containing the damage. Rory, you'll need to make a statement to the investigators. Sabrina, you're looking at serious charges. Charges? Mum laughed hysterically. For helping my son? For fraud, I said. Identity theft, wire fraud, maybe even conspiracy, given what we now know about Matthew. You did this, she hissed at me. You destroyed everything I built. No, Mom, you destroyed it. Every time you chose Rory over me, every time you stole from my future to fund his fantasies, every time you chose Matthew over your own family. I am your family. Family doesn't steal from family, Aunt Laurel said coldly. Family doesn't enable abuse. Family doesn't lie. Rory started crying, big ugly sobs that shattered his carefully cultivated artistic image. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about the money. But you never asked, did you? I turned to him. All those times Mum magically produced money for your projects, your supplies, your opportunities. You never once wondered where it came from. I thought, he hiccuped. I thought we were rich. We were, Dad said quietly, until your mother started funding Matthew's schemes. Mum stood up suddenly. None of you understand. I did what I had to do. Rory has talent. Rory has a mother who'd rather prostitute him to criminals than let him face reality. Aunt Laurel snapped. The words hung in the air like poison. Is that true? Rory whispered. Mum, did you know what Matthew was really doing? Mum's face crumpled. In that moment, her silence said everything. I'm calling my lawyer, Dad announced, standing up. And then I'm calling a divorce attorney. Greg, please, save it, Sabrina. Save it for the judge. I watched my family implode, feeling oddly calm. Because sometimes karma isn't about revenge. It's about truth finally breaking through years of lies. You raised him like a prince, I said again, softer this time. And now look what that crown cost us all. Uncle Cody gathered his papers. The police will want statements from everyone, and Sabrina? He looked at my mother with cold eyes. I'd start cooperating now. It might help at sentencing. Because that's the thing about consequences. They don't care about your intentions. They only care about your actions. And my mother's actions had finally caught up with her. The acceptance letter arrived on the same morning as Mum's sentencing. I sat on my new apartment's balcony, reading both documents side by side. Full scholarship to the business programme, Annalise read over my shoulder, plus housing stipend. Aunt Laurel's friend really came through. She said talent deserves support, I replied, setting down the court document. Unlike some people's version of support. My phone buzzed, Dad calling. 3 years, he said without preamble. Plus restitution. She took a plea deal. Did she say anything? Just kept apologising to Rory. Still doesn't get it. He sighed. The divorce is final next week. Another call beeped through. Rory this time. I hesitated, then switched lines. Hey, he said quietly. I just left the FBI office. Finished my statement about the retreat. And? They're charging Matthew with a lot, thanks to my testimony and the others. He paused. Talia, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but you're right, it's not. I never knew where the money came from. I swear. I let myself believe what Mum told me, that I was special, talented. Were you talented enough to justify stealing my future? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. I'm getting help, he offered. Real help, not Mum's version of help, and I'm paying back every penny, even if it takes years. Good. Do you think, maybe, someday? I don't know, Rory. That's all I can say right now. After hanging up, I looked at Annalise. Think I'm being too hard on him? Think you're being exactly hard enough, she replied. He needs to grow up. They all do. My laptop pinged. An email from Aunt Laurel. Talia, Cody recovered most of your funds through legal channels. The rest is covered by my investment group's insurance. Your future is secure again. But more importantly, you secured it yourself by standing up for truth. I've never been prouder to be your aunt. Love, Laurel. She's right, you know, Annalise said. You did this. You stood up to them. The doorbell rang. Dad stood there holding a box. Found these while cleaning out the house, he said, setting it down. Your old financial planning notebooks, all those careful calculations and dreams you wrote down. I opened the box, seeing years of meticulous planning, dreams I'd thought were destroyed. I'm sorry, Dad said suddenly. I failed you. I let your mother's favouritism poison everything. I should have protected you. You're protecting me now, I said, by choosing truth over lies. He hugged me, something he hadn't done in years. You're going to be amazing at business school, and not because you're the responsible one or the capable one, because you're you. My phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Cody. Judge approved the final restitution order. Your mother and Matthew have to repay everything. Justice served. Justice, I murmured. Funny how that works. What do you mean? Annalise asked. Mum always said I was the strong one, the one who could handle anything. She meant it as an excuse to take from me. I smiled. She didn't realise she was actually describing the person who would bring her down. Dad picked up my acceptance letter. When do classes start? Next month. New city, new start. Running away? Annalise asked. No, I said firmly. Moving forward, there's a difference. Because that's what strength really is. Not letting people take from you. Not staying quiet to keep peace. But knowing when to fight, when to speak, and when to walk away. Dad helped me pack up my planning notebooks. Your mother called from jail today, wanted me to ask if you'd visit. What did you tell her? That you're not the family fixer anymore, that she needs to fix herself. I nodded, touching the acceptance letter. My future reclaimed. They called me selfish, I said quietly, but in the end, I only claimed what was mine, my money, my truth, my life. Annalise hugged me, and look how much that truth freed everyone else too. Because sometimes the greatest act of love isn't sacrifice, it's standing firm in your truth, even when that truth shakes foundations and breaks chains that needed breaking. I looked at my new apartment, my acceptance letter, my future stretching out before me, clear and bright and mine, all mine, just like it should have been all along.